Ladies and gentlemen, today we've got an absolutely stunning breakthrough relating to the Jeffrey Epstein situation. You see, just the other day, a secret undercover expose video got released in which a former British royal family staff member made some very interesting admissions that pretty much shatter the entire narrative that we've all been told to believe. So, to kick things off, I want you all to watch this bombshell video. Then we are going to have a lot to talk about. Let it play.
Was your even like involved with like
For other girls. I was so pissed about that. I was
Has there
really
ever-
pissed.
that's
I was really pissed because he lied to me about
lied about
Epstein. Yeah. No, I knew he saw him, but he lied to me that he was such a close friend. I was so pissed. And then I did a big thing in the Daily Mail saying that I believed Andrew, and then I found out he was lying. I was
lying
so
about
pissed.
what?
No, that he was f***ing underage girls.
So, folks, did you catch all of that? John Bryan, Prince Andrew's close friend and British royal family crisis advisor, just admitted that Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, engaged in sexual misconduct with underage girls directly supplied to him by none other than Jeffrey Epstein. Now, as many of you may remember, in 2019, Prince Andrew directly denied all of this during an interview with the BBC News, so this hidden video admission completely blows the lid off of the narrative that we've all been fed. Even stranger, however, just 2 weeks ago, we're told that Virginia Giuffre, one of Prince Andrew's alleged victims and primary accusers, mysteriously took her own life, although just days prior to this happening, she's on public record saying that she'd never do that. And as a reminder, Virginia Giuffre's allegations were that at age 17, she was human trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, ultimately ending up in front of none other than Prince Andrew. Interestingly, in 2022, Prince Andrew, without admitting liability, agreed to a settlement with Virginia Giuffre for $12 million, which only fueled further speculations about what really went on behind the scenes. But now that we have this undercover video, we pretty much have the confirmation. Still to this day, there's an ongoing attempt to cover up not only Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, but to also protect everyone that he worked with. And on that note, I want to move on to yet another massive update that we have about this entire situation. But first, I do want to say real quick, if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, folks, take a look at this. Just the other day, we got our first official update into the ongoing Epstein investigation from none other than Attorney General Pam Bondi herself. Take a look at this.
No, the FBI, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child, and there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to talk about here, so let's break all of this down. First things first, I think it's fair to say that pretty much the entire America First voter base has been extremely disappointed in Pam Bondi so far because she hasn't released the Epstein files yet. President Trump has been in the White House for just under 4 months, and Pam Bondi was saying prior to Inauguration Day that we'd all have access to the Epstein files on day one. But so, according to her, the reason why the files haven't been released yet is not because the files have been deleted, which has been one massive concern, but rather because there's just so many files with sensitive information that they have to manually sift through everything before they can get released to the public. However, with that said, regardless of what you or I believe about that, this entire situation has been handled terribly. As you might remember, 2 months ago, the White House flew out a bunch of right-wing social media influencers and gave them the Phase 1 Epstein files, then held a big photo op, but really, everything in those files was already publicly available information. None of it was even new. Now, to be fair, we do have reports that various deep state traders inside of the FBI have been working to withhold and obstruct everything relating to releasing the Epstein documents, so it is reasonable to acknowledge that all of those deep state traders have to be identified and rooted out before any meaningful work can be accomplished. But the fact remains, those files most certainly exist, somebody has them, and also somewhere out there, there's a list of names. Keep in mind, in 2021, Jeffrey Epstein's number one accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, was convicted on 5 federal charges of sex trafficking. However, mysteriously, if you ask the very simple question, who were these people sex trafficked to, there isn't an answer. You would think that in order to convict someone with 5 charges of sex trafficking that you would need some pretty concrete proof, some evidence, with dates and locations and most importantly names, but for some reason that information has never been made public. And so, yes, we did just get a massive breakthrough regarding the ongoing investigation into Jeffrey Epstein in the form of the bombshell hidden camera video that we took a look at earlier. And we did just get our first official update from Attorney General Pam Bondi that the investigation is, in fact, still underway. But still, despite all of that, the public deserves to know more. Every single person that participated in Jeffrey Epstein's underage human trafficking operation needs to be identified and held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. That much is owed to the public. Now, worth keeping in mind, the thing that makes the Jeffrey Epstein situation so incredibly complex is that not every single person that went to his private island, or flew on his private jet, or even visited his New York City penthouse is 100% verifiably guilty. The reason that Jeffrey Epstein was able to do what he did and also get away with it for so long is because he was genuinely an incredibly wealthy, influential businessman, which means over the years, I'm sure many famous, influential people met with him and also had no idea how much of a freak he was. We also need to acknowledge that Jeffrey Epstein absolutely thrived in the environment created by our weak, radically progressive globalist leaders like Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Under their administrations, our government pretty much turned a blind eye to Jeffrey Epstein's disgusting behavior. In fact, between you and me, I wouldn't be surprised if numerous people in those very administrations were taking part in what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. We all know that they very publicly worked to destroy our country, so Lord only knows what else they did behind closed doors. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if one of the reasons that the radical progressives chose to leave our southern border wide open is because it helped them accommodate human trafficker freaks like Jeffrey Epstein. Because as you all know, over the last couple years, hundreds of thousands of women and children have completely disappeared along that border. And so this is why we need Pam Bondi and Kash Patel to get this show on the road, put together all the proof and all of the evidence, and then release it to the public. Because I'll tell you what, folks, if we ever want to actually make this country great again, all of these sick, progressive elites need to actually be held accountable. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.